Of 5 people, 3 must pay the price. This is the legacy of the Highcloud Quintet, a group once heralded as legends of the xianzhou, but has since fallen to disgrace. The story of the quintet has been a slow burn and has been told to us through the narration of each of its 5 members. With every patch, a new member appears, and through their story, we learn a little bit more about this group and what really happened to them. With Jingliu's recent release and through her companion quest, we now have somewhat of a complete picture. So in this video, we are going to talk about the Highcloud Quintet, who they were, what roles each of them had, and what ultimately led to their demise. Before we do though, if you want to see more Honkai Star Rail content, do consider subscribing to the channel. This topic is by no means easy to cover. There is a lot of lore here, and if you've watched any of my content, you'll know that I don't particularly like making extremely long videos. I'll try to cover as much as I can, but keep in mind that I may leave out certain details to avoid dragging this out. As usual, this will spoil a whole bunch of things from even as early as 1.2, so if you're new to the game or haven't played the content in 1.4, consider this your spoiler warning. The Highcloud Quintet was a group of 5 members, formed by the former sword champion Jingliu for the express purpose of defending the xianzhou alliance as well as combating the abominations of abundance. Each member had a particular role and expertise. Jingliu was the leader and arguably the most powerful thanks to her mastery of the sword. Feng brought the power of the dragons and cloud him magic. Baiheng was the group's ace pilot. Yingxing outfitted the group with powerful weapons as their resident master craftsman, and finally, Jingyuan was their unmatched strategist. Together, they had won victory after victory on behalf of the xianzhou alliance, and time again pushed back the abominations of Yaoshe. For all intents and purposes, they were the A-team, sent to solve problems no one could deal with, and a proverbial thorn in the plague author's side. The beginning of the end for them occurred when an emanator of abundance challenged the alliance. Shu Hu, I think I'm pronouncing that right, an emanator of abundance, raised an army and had begun to assault one of the xianzhou ships. A massive battle ensued, which eventually involved the quintet. You see, up till this point, whether it was skirmishes against the Borisins or battles with the Wing Weavers, the quintet didn't really face much difficulties, at least on the battlefield. Sure, there were casualties here and there, but none among the quintet themselves. An emanator of abundance, however, was not an easy adversary to kill. Blessed by the god of life itself, no matter what they did, and despite having the full power of the alliance alongside them, Shu Hu wasn't going to go down easy. That is until one batshit insane Starskiff pilot decided to spear the emanator clean through using her ship. Not only that, it's implied in Imbibitor Lune's character story number 3 that after this pilot skewered the emanator, in order to finish the job, she triggered some sort of explosive at point blank range. This pilot was one of the quintet, Baiheng, and this brave yet insane action ultimately cost her her life. Now, it's indirectly mentioned that she didn't do this on a whim, but rather to save her friends, particularly Feng, who was in danger at the time. After her death, the quintet didn't really take it too well, especially Feng and Yingxing. It was particularly tough for Yingxing, who had known Baiheng even before he joined the xianzhou. This is the part of the story where I wish I could spell out everything in more detail regarding the quintet's members, their personalities and motivations, as there's a lot of context that might be lost, which explains why some of them did what they did, but as I mentioned earlier, I won't explore each of these characters here in detail. Essentially, Feng, feeling both guilty at the death of his friend and hubris, thinking he can solve any problem, sought to resurrect Baiheng using his knowledge and power as the Vidyadhara High Elder. While this may appear altruistic, there are snippets of lore that imply that Feng didn't do this purely out of guilt alone or out of just wanting to save his friend. The Vidyadhara Elder had long searched for a way to solve the rebirth issues that plagued the Vidyadhara people, as they couldn't naturally reproduce, and at the same time, he also wanted to create a new elder. Being able to save his friend was the proverbial cherry on top, and so he saw this attempt at resurrecting someone as an opportunity to kill 3 birds with 1 stone. This plan of his, as you know, didn't turn out well. Using the flesh of Yaoshe's emanator they had just killed and the transmutation arcanum, he sought to revive his friend by granting a piece of immortality to a mortal. Knowing the xianzhou wouldn't allow him to do this, he had also roped in Yingxing into helping him, who guarded Danfeng as he carried out his experiments. Instead of reviving Baiheng, what unfortunately happened was she ended up transformed and mutated into a draconic abomination, while Yingxing, who we now know as Blade, ended up becoming immortal. This broke numerous rules with both the Vidyadhara and the Xianzhou, who explicitly forbids this sort of thing, but the damage had been done, and now an abomination ran rampant on one of their ships. Jingliu was the one who eventually stopped the rampage of the beast and had to functionally kill her previously deceased friend, albeit a mutated version of her. This event essentially branded both Danfeng and Blade as criminals, and combined with the death of Baiheng, the quintet were functionally gone. To make matters worse, a year or so after this event, their leader Jingliu succumbed to the Mara and in her uncontrolled rage proceeded to kill every person she came across until Jingyuan himself stopped her rampage. Now marked as a criminal, she left the xianzhou and hid in the darkness of space. This all but solidified the disbandment of the Highcloud Quintet. Any chance of them reforming was now functionally gone. A group that once stood atop the xianzhou itself now has its members branded as criminals and vagrants. This is where we circle back to that opening line. Of 5 people, 3 must pay the price. It has been repeated a few times throughout the Xianzhou Luofu storyline, and through Jingliu's exposition in her story quest, we finally understand its context. While the blame can largely be placed on Danfeng, as he was largely the mastermind that kicked off all of this, or at the very least made things worse, their leader Jingliu wasn't without a sense of justice. To her, all 3 of them needed to pay for their past sins, and largely sees them as the root cause of much of the problems of today. Danheng will forever carry the burden of his past self's actions. Blade will forever continue to suffer an endless life, and Jingliu is nothing more than a husk of rage and vengeance. To her, this is the suffering they must endure to atone for their past actions. The companion quest served mostly as a conclusion to the story of the quintet, and with Jingyuan being the only untainted member left, it's unlikely we would see them reform in the future. That said, the story for each of these characters are far from over, and it seems that Jingliu's resurgence isn't tied to the quintet alone. In fact, alongside Luocha, she seems to have realized how to end the curse of the Plague Author once and for all. But that's a story for another day. I suppose that old saying is pretty accurate. Either you die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. If you enjoyed watching this video, do consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. As usual, have a nice day ahead.